Welcome back, everybody. You got Will and I-Man here from the Block Runner, MetaZone, Roby, and MScribe, and today we're going to be talking about Ordinals. What?
More specifically, Bitcoin.
Yeah, Bitcoin, eco, runes.
Yeah, that all that stuff, right?
Yeah. We spent 2 years in this ecosystem. It's been a fun 2 years. Why? Because it was a bear market, and it didn't feel like it in the Ordinal space.
Yeah, it was very interesting, right? Like when you're in massive despair after like an FTX collapse, and most of the industry is flailing. It's like, what do we do? How do we recover from this? And then out of nowhere, you find this white paper outlining this new theory called Ordinal theory by some random dev out there named Casey, and it's like, that's a pretty neat concept of like, ordering Satoshis.
Yeah.
And this like new meta protocol like rule set in a sense, and then now you can like attribute new data on chain and assign them to these sats. I was like, wow, that's an interesting like workaround to essentially get NFTs on Bitcoin, right? That's how it all started. Yeah. And then like 6 months into that, some other random dev named Domo was like, you know what, I could.
It's not even 6 months, dude.
Maybe like 4 or 5 months.
No, like 2 months.
It was like March, April.
2 or 3 months.
Yeah, it's like 3 months, 4 months, whatever. Yeah, pretty soon after, it's like maybe we don't just do art. Let's like do JSON. Basically,
Fun.
like
the best type of JSON.
Yeah, new rule sets, right? And like with this, we can unlock fungibility, right? With more indexers, of course.
Yeah. So if you don't know what the hell we're talking about,
I know. Yeah.
There are NFTs on Bitcoin. Pretty cool, right?
Sounds cool.
Yeah, and then there's fungible tokens on Bitcoin.
Yeah, so
pretty cool as well.
Yeah, so of course we aped in all the way. It's like, this is the new jazz. We're into this. This is like very hyper interesting. We like Bitcoin. We think the rest of the world's going to like Bitcoin. So that's starting to happen.
It's happening.
Literally, Trump is like stockpiling.
Yeah.
Or announced that the government will be stockpiling.
Yeah, stockpiling Bitcoin, Trump tokens.
Probably Solana. And
Solana. Yeah.
But nonetheless, it's like people really like Bitcoin, right? So they're most likely at some point during this upcoming bull market that we're now in, this is like the thesis we drew up like 2 years ago. It's like at some point, whenever the bull market returns, once people discover that there's like all of this potential within Bitcoin itself now, it's not just this Bitcoin. There's an ecosystem, just like there's an ecosystem on Solana, just like there's an ecosystem on Ethereum or Base, whatever, right?
Yeah.
So like all these new tokenized vehicles were created, standards, protocols. So we're like, dude, there's no way this doesn't become like the biggest like talk of the town at some point, right?
Agreed. Yeah, and so there's a caveat. When NFTs on Bitcoin, no problems there. The only thing you got to deal with is 10-minute block times. Is kind of sucks, but it's embedded into Bitcoin's block data, so that's cool. Yeah. Fungible tokens, unfortunately, they're not as fungible as you would hope they would be.
Yeah.
They're their own NFTs, essentially, with a value inside that NFT saying you hold 1 million of this token.
Yeah, so you have to like literally generate a new NFT in order to like alter that account balance.
Yeah, which is called a transfer inscription.
Yeah, so that's a whole new step of like human action requirements just to like move digits around.
And then all of a sudden, Casey comes out with runes. Yeah. So it doesn't really do anything different than what I just described. All the difference is you don't create transfer inscriptions. Instead, you split UTXOs.
Yeah, so it's still not friendly, still nothing close to what we're experiencing like in the trenches of Solana and Base.
Yeah.
Speculating on these AI meme coins, whatever, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, here we are in the Bitcoin ecosystem. Boom.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like when you can't, you know.
What does it look like to not have actual fungibility? Well, 50% down. And they're down because of market conditions, right? The attention kind of moved away to Solana and Base because of, for good reasons, AI, like that's a pretty interesting narrative.
Yeah, I think, so there's some factors here that are pretty obvious, right? The liquidity, just go to DEX Screener.
Yeah.
There's a nice little neat list of like different ecosystems.
Yeah.
And you can just analyze the volume. I'm looking at it right here.
You know, DEX Screener doesn't even have Bitcoin as part of the list there.
I'm not surprised. Look at the 24-hour volume here for Solana.
I think most people don't know that there's a Bitcoin ecosystem at all.
Well, because there's no DEX ecosystem on Bitcoin yet. This is like tied to like
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
On-chain
Yeah.
data, right?
Yeah.
So we're looking at 14 billion here for Solana just today, 24 hours.
Yeah.
That's the pool of human activity, value flow just on Solana alone.
Yeah.
On Base, we're looking at 2.5 billion. On Ethereum, looking at roughly 4 billion, right? So you go down this list, obviously it drops off pretty significantly from there.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, like this is...
And there's tons of these like layer 1 chains with
and L2s.
No activity.
A lot.
There's a lot of them.
Yeah, so what do you expect the market to do, right?
Right, yeah.
It's going to rush to these like...
liquid environments.
Yeah, why? Because that brings velocity. It means like this opportunity we're seeing of like at the click of a button, somebody like the founder of Vine can just tweet out a contract address and be like, "Hey, let's just launch the token." And within like 8 hours, it's almost $1 billion.
Do you know who's back from the dead?
John McAfee.
John McAfee tweeted a contract address.
Or not him, his wife did.
Yeah.
That would be pretty weird if he was still tweeting. But yeah, his wife tweeted out a contract address. Not just that. Like
it did 100x.
An AI agent also.
Was that an AI agent?
Yeah, this is an AI agent. Like you can go talk to John now.
Holy shit.
By the way, we actually got the honor to talk to him.
We did. Definitely look at that video. It's about an hour long. We interviewed John McAfee.
I'm probably going to scoop some of those tokens just in like honor of John, you know?
Yeah.
I think we should. I think that's the right thing to do. But nonetheless, it's like you can't even do these things, right, in the absence of liquidity.
Correct. Yeah, that's right.
So,
all right. So yeah, everything runes related is down. So there's conversation brewing, right? So businessman ETH, pretty prominent Twitter player here.
Yeah.
Spitballing some thoughts on runes. Very hard to compete with fungible tokens on Solana. Manual listing, sell orders on Magic Eden isn't acceptable. That's what I'm talking about. It's like if you want to sell your fungible tokens on Bitcoin, you have to like sell them all in a bunch or split them all into pieces, and hopefully people pick up the floor there, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, however, seeing these platforms like Slingshot and Vector starting to integrate runes, it may help facilitate the trading process. Also, I know Arch Network is looking for solutions. At this point, the sex dreams are looking bleak.
Damn, all of our sex dreams are looking pretty bleak these days, I guess.
Yeah. So people here love Bitcoin. They love transacting with Bitcoin. It's their home, even though it has some flaws.
Yeah, so what does he mean by the sex dream, right? The issue with centralized exchanges is, you know, it's
gated.
Yeah, it's a very gated
price
industry.
Gated.
Yeah, price, influence, all these things, right?
Yeah, it's political as well.
Yeah, and
But if you could get your token there, that means that your fungible tokens become fungible because it's all a database entry.
Correct. So it's like the users of these centralized exchanges like Binance or Coinbase or whatever, they're interfacing with this token as if it's like any other token.
It's
you wouldn't know the difference.
Yeah, you would not know. Yeah.
And that's the value unlock there, right? It's why you want something that's issued on Bitcoin through like whatever fungible protocol, whether it's runes, BRC20s, or tap tokens or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, that is like the final destination or the desired destination.
Yeah. And, you know, a lot of these goals of these projects on Bitcoin is to create a DeFi ecosystem on Bitcoin. Well, there is a Taproot swap on Bitcoin, and it's not getting the volume that it should get. But that's an indicator that probably people don't care about DeFi on Bitcoin.
Well, yeah, for sure, because it's not necessarily like a new narrative, right? Potentially.
Yeah, it's not. And that was one of our statements. I mean, if you go back to our videos on Ordinals in 2 years, and we kept saying, it's like, putting pictures on Bitcoin is not going to be good enough.
Potentially not, right? It's just, as far as we understood, and we've been watching and observing this space for 5-6 years now, it's always literally like some new narrative that emerges,
such as AI agents, virtual agents.
Yeah, it's just some new ability that not just like one chain has access to, but like the entire ecosystem of crypto can now like partake in, right? Whether it's like NFTs, the idea of like DeFi, like these are all new major unlocks for the entire crypto ecosystem. Whenever they come about, you know, you see like a swarm of piled in liquidity and attention and mindshare, right? So it's like, yeah, what is going to be Bitcoin's discoverable, like, new narrative?
Yeah, what can only be done on Bitcoin that cannot be done anywhere else? So we have an answer to that, but
Yeah, I guess we'll talk about that later
at the end. So we got another tweet here, Pups. It says we'll be officially live to bridge to Solana using Mind Labs on August 28th.
Yeah, this is from last year. So Pups is a rune, very popular one, very cool community. People love their pups. Great art. It originated as an ordinal, but then turned into a meme coin on Bitcoin, right? That's what Pups is. But, it's not able to really thrive and, experience that velocity that you get on Solana because it's dealing with these limitations of the Bitcoin space, right? So what do?
They report to Solana.
That seems to be like a pretty logical thing to do, right?
Yeah, and I believe I saw somewhere that the Runes token, the Pups Rune token, is like worth 60 million on Bitcoin, but 90 million on Solana.
Yeah, I think once they got onto Moonshot or something like that arbitrage opportunity happened. So
I see.
Yeah, because that's just a testament to, like, again, the velocity. Like things on Solana just have more explosive energy, right? As opposed to it residing, like, whatever the portion that's still non-migrated on its native chain, which is Bitcoin, and in the Runes protocol, doesn't have that velocity or that energy inputs. Therefore, it stays there on Solana.
It's action. Yeah.
Right?
All right. And here we are with another tweet. It says, since the timeline is a mess, there's been some healthy discussion about runes. And the quoted tweet thread.
Yeah, just keep going through here.
All right. So Pups, because of the fungible embodiment. Okay. So Pups spreading the overcoming inherent technical challenges and porting to Solana. And the TVL volume grows. So, yeah, it's just more evidence to support what we were saying earlier.
Yeah, basically. So the question here, is this like the inevitable like solution to all these problems? Like,
is this a play for all Runes tokens, essentially?
Yeah, or maybe just the concept of the Bitcoin ecosystem in general. It's like just leveraging Bitcoin as like this new asset issuance protocol, right? It's like things have these like intangible properties because they were produced on Bitcoin, but then you export them to more viable liquid ecosystems, right? Not a bad experiment, right?
Yeah. All right, so we're looking at a tweet from Rutoshi's. When I reflect on Runes protocol going forward, I think of two things, existing and new projects. The protocol is inherently flawed for new launches simply because it is programmed to drain ecosystem liquidity unless this is patched, as where the liquidity is retained is not viable at scale. The culture of Runes promoting only 0% pre-mine and 0% team holdings is not conducive to maturing a token market.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is something that we've been saying for a long time as well.
Yeah, and probably got a lot of like hatred for like even bringing up the idea of sustainability.
Yeah.
And like, actually supporting creators and builders, not just 100% focus on like the degens of the market, which is kind of like the toxicity of the culture that brewed within like this early Bitcoin ecosystem. It's like, anytime anybody tried to launch anything that wasn't 100% allocated for the community mint was like labeled as some sort of grift, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Yeah, man. The word grift is thrown around so frequently that everything is practically a grift.
Yeah, here we are with Trump coin, 90%
yeah,
fucking team allocation or whatever, and the whole market seems to totally disagree with this thesis.
It's $10 billion market cap right now.
Yeah, so it's like, this idea within the Bitcoin ecosystem of like the allocation is like the sole critical crux of the value proposition of a token. Like, it's conducive to like a community, like really basically circle jerking, as like because they're the only ones that hold like the network value, so they're the only ones that can actually produce anything.
Yeah.
But then you start to like, okay, so what are developers gonna do who actually need to like build anything?
Yeah, there's no incentive to do so.
Why would you come launch a Bitcoin ecosystem token if you're gonna get pushed out of the room as soon as you mention the fact that, guys, we need funding not just to like build our technology and to like actually build something with some function and utility.
But to supply liquidity indexes and centralized exchanges and
all this, just essentially maintain shop. Like there's a lot of responsibility in operating within like the Web3 industry.
Yeah.
It's not just memes, guys. It's not just vibing as a culture.
Correct.
There's a lot of work and a lot of like considerations to like maintaining it's an operation, right? And that is the disconnect, right? Because a lot of this Bitcoin ecosystem, it started off as a bunch of NFT people, collectors, picture JPEG people. They don't understand the dynamics of like fungible tokens and actual like ecosystem structuring, right?
Yeah.
It's complex, and it needs to be complex.
Yeah, for 2 years is free and fair bunch of nonsense. And it's just not sustainable. It didn't work. What didn't work in the past doesn't work now.
Yeah.
And that's part of the problem. And so that's what Runetoshi is saying.
A change of culture, right? Like this, I totally agree with this. You're not going to see any like real talent participate in this ecosystem unless there's a real adoption of like a sensible tokenomics structuring.
And there's some talented folks in the Bitcoin ecosystem. Benny, I mean, he's been killing it out there and just largely ignored.
And guess what? Guess what? TAP has a sensible tokenomic structure.
Yes.
To support operations and
nothing but hate.
Yeah, he gets probably one of the most hated devs in the space.
Yeah, we don't understand.
Doesn't make sense to us because we get to work closely with the guy. We know the amount of work that he's putting in his team, and like the resources that are allocated are for sustaining that level of activity so that the ecosystem can grow and become that much more impactful, which is being done with consistent delivery. Now this protocol is like extendable to all these different chains. Right. There's just so much around that. So, but the problem is the market culture is not respecting that, doesn't regard that as value. Right. That's the real disconnect and the real issue.
Yeah, so here's something sensible. LIFO, FIFO, instead of replicating what works on other chains for runes, how do we embrace the constraints? If slow blocks are a hurdle, can we incorporate that into the degeneracy? If you ever meme pool sniped, you know how addictive it could be. So treat meme pool as a feature, not a bug.
Yeah, I mean, this is another, like, essentially another thing we can align with, right? Is treat what are the innate properties of like Bitcoin that make it unique, and like to leverage that if you want to like distinguish yourself from what's happening on Solana or Base or whatever, right?
Yeah, music, dude.
Yeah, so we've spent a lot of time also like identifying what those innate properties are, and we've architected essentially a protocol wrapper around that called DMT.
Yeah.
Right? Like this is that exactly what people are looking for, is like what is that unique to Bitcoin angle so that we can offset all the UI, UX limitations of Bitcoin, but we're offering something new to the audience of degeneracy.
Yeah.
Elaborate, dude, if you will.
Dude, I mean, I think you said it best. It's ultimately taking the constraints of Bitcoin and leveraging those constraints. That's exactly what digital matter theory is.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can apply picture projects against this data. You can apply fungible tokens against this data and then leverage the TAP ecosystem to port the fungible token to wherever you want to like do your degeneracy. Right. And so, I mean, it's all there. And so I definitely align with like this thought process because, I mean, we did it.
Yeah. It's like, so basically you don't necessarily want to just, because we're seeing this, like, some of these other tertiary environments to Bitcoin, right? I don't want to name any names, but it's like, degens on Solana love pump.fun. So we're just going to like,
just do that on Bitcoin. And
then they're just going to rush over here, right?
Yeah.
No, evidence suggests that's not going to work.
Yeah.
Right. So we, as a collective, as an ecosystem community, whatever, the mind direction should be on what is unique, what is actually new objectively. That's not happening anywhere else. Right. There's only one candidate, guys.
It's DMT.
It's DMT. It's digital matter theory. Look it up, study it. If you disagree with us, come challenge us on that.
Yeah.
Show us something that anybody else has worked on in this last 2 years that is like, that it comes even close.
Yeah, the opportunity is DMT for Bitcoin.
Right.
So we're looking at another tweet here, and I'm paraphrasing. Here's the message, plain and simple. This is the first bull run where Bitcoin has its own assets competing for attention against alts. The first time Bitcoin has alts.
Yeah.
What's fascinating is that Bitcoin assets are drastically undervalued compared to those on Ethereum and Solana. This is a glaring market imbalance. It's an abnormality, and like all market abnormalities, it will be corrected. Bitcoin isn't just another L1, it's the main show.
So this is that original thesis, right, which captivated basically everybody who's decided to build in this Bitcoin ecosystem. It's at the end of the day, it's Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
It's the God chain. Here it is. This is what that opportunity looks like, right?
Yeah, so we're looking at Beto here with a tweet. So we're about to explode ETH 290 billion, ETH ecosystem 220 billion.
So what does that represent? That's like DeFi, that's NFTs, like all these, essentially all the value generated from last cycle. Like there's a clear, it's like the value of the token itself, it has like a parity to the ecosystem that it supports, right? And so Bitcoin, this is the first time where there's like an actual ecosystem forming.
Yeah.
But that value parity has not, come to fruition yet.
And this tweet was a few months ago. We were like 60% difference. So
Yeah,
Bitcoin's
yeah.
at 2.1 trillion right now.
And I'm pretty sure
And
that,
this is
that
less.
got less. Probably half. Like we just saw everything's down 50%.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're talking the ecosystem is like a almost unobservable dot at this point compared to Bitcoin. So yeah, I mean, that's the opportunity. That is why it's you shouldn't just ignore, even though there's like, the Bitcoin ecosystem is going through a lot of like struggle at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Still, like that is that asynchronous opportunity, right? That is super rare.
Yeah, that's what drew us here, right? 2 years ago. And it's still here, right? The opportunity is still here.
Yeah. So that's why we're still super bullish, but because of these limitations, you can't do things like iterate new AI agent experimentation on the Bitcoin space. So that's why we gotta see what's happening on Solana and Base and elsewhere, right? You can't do sensible DeFi yet. I mean, you can, but it's in a very limited state, right? So you gotta look and see what's happening on Sonic Labs, with their DeFi, their DeFi AI, right? But nonetheless, like there is that asynchronous opportunity, that asynchronous bet that Bitcoin ecosystem will find its killer product market fit. Yeah. And we have a hunch that DMT will play a part in that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Bitcoin is about to enter the United States National Reserve vault.
Yeah, that's wild.
There's going to be, Nat is going to be part of that vault. Just wait.
That's the goal. We're not, if we can get Nat.
I'm going to send an email to David Sachs right after this recording.
Okay.
And we're going to tell him about Nat.
Yeah, man. If we can get Nat on the United States balance sheet,
it's over.
I think we can rest at that point. Maybe we can actually go on some kind of vacation or something.
Yeah.
I heard people do stuff like that.
Yeah, I want to go one day where we don't talk about crypto.
Jeez.
Just one day. I don't think that's ever happened, dude.
One day?
One day.
What would we talk about?
I don't know.
Could you imagine? It's like, dude, it's like we can't talk about crypto.
It's like it snowed yesterday. How about
like,
that?
It's like, hey man, remember when we used to play basketball? Like, remember those fun activities?
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't do that anymore.
All right. Well, if you guys have any questions on the Bitcoin ecosystem, we definitely know a little bit about that. If you see anything in the ecosystem at all that's interesting, like AI, definitely let us know in the comment section below. But other than that, appreciate you for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video.